Welcome. I'm Gary Parr, Editorial Director, Maintenance Technology Magazine, and I'm here with Rod Pervier from the Boeing Company. And this is the first in our series of mainstream 2017 video interviews in which we talk with a variety of speakers that are presenting at the conference this year. And Rod, your title of your talk is Asset Planning, Linking Utilization and Condition for Investment Planning. But you have a huge project here, a huge job in managing all of Boeing's real estate assets. And so your effort and what you're talking about in your talk is how do you prioritize, how do you figure out where money's going to go and where it's not going to go?
Right. I mean, so I focus primarily on the West Quarter and the Puget Sound. In previous roles, I had the process for the entire enterprise. That we rotate that every couple of years. So I'm focused primarily in the Puget Sound today, and you're spot on. We're looking at how do you prioritize the right capital investments to ensure that your infrastructure is going to be there when you need it, based on when our business partners need to use their sites. So you could have a site that's growing and they're going to increase production, so you want to make sure the infrastructure is able to handle that production rate, versus a site that might be aging and we might be considering getting out of, therefore maybe perhaps you don't make nearly as much of the investment. So it's prioritizing condition with utilization to make sure we have the right assets available to produce the aircrafts that we make.
And one of the tools that you're using as you're working your way through this, what 4 years you've been working on this? I wanted to throw out some of the numbers.
Yeah.
41,000 work orders a month.
Yep, that's correct.
122,000 construction-related project requests a year, and 400 real estate transactions a year.
Yeah, so that's Boeing Site Services as a whole for the enterprise. That is correct.
Wow.
Pretty big statement of work. 85 million square feet plus or minus that we take care of across the enterprise.
And you do that with $500, right?
And not at all. We do that with a significant amount of investment, which is really important to make sure you're investing in the right things.
Right.
You don't always have all the dollars you'd like, right?
And that's where this T.R.A.P tool for reporting and analyzing projects, this T.R.A.P tool is something that you're using to help prioritize these millions of dollars in square feet.
Help identify the projects, make sure they're in the LRP, to help prioritize the project, and then most important, to help track performance to those projects. Did we complete what we wanted to get done, and those things we didn't get completed? How do we ensure we don't lose them when we capture them in next year's plan? So it's a current year plus an overall 5-year window for everything that we're trying to do to support the infrastructure projects today in the Northwest and South Carolina. In the future, we're hoping for the whole enterprise.
And you were talking before we started recording here about how people can know through their CMMS exactly what a crafts worker might spend 5 minutes longer than is necessary.
Right.
But you didn't necessarily have that kind of information for the millions of dollars in square feet that you deal with, which is really kind of a strange thing.
We can tell you when a craftsperson spends an extra 10 minutes on a job that maybe goes over the estimate. Couldn't necessarily tell you when a $100 million project goes over the initial cost. So yeah, a little bit of scalability issue there, and trying to get better at managing the big stuff as well as we do the small stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then with this T.R.A.P program and your other efforts, then that allows you, if a budget needs to be cut or if some extra money is available, that allows you to intelligently add or subtract from what you're doing.
Very, very well said. I think no leader wants to make a bad decision, and they make decisions based on the information we have in front of us, right? So the goal is better information in front of us. And thinking about it as we go through the year, if you're executing projects extremely well and you have dollars that maybe you aren't going to spend, let's allocate them somewhere else. If you underrun on the project, it may help you with the ability where you're overrunning on another, or you can have the opportunity to go do some other critical infrastructure work that needs to be done as well. Mm-hmm. So it really is better management of the dollars you've identified to spend that year, visually, so everybody knows where you're at.
Yes. And the other tool, and this is something that everyone can take out of this talk, because not everyone, there might be 3 other people can operate at your level when it comes to real estate, but that everyone can take out of this is your asset condition room approach.
Right.
And so tell the story about your asset condition room approach and how you use that to keep everybody on the same page.
So the idea of an asset condition room is it's truly the room where we have all of the resources available to understand the condition and tell the story, but more importantly, it's used as what I would call a facilitation tool for the craftspeople that touch the assets, the engineers that are responsible for them, the planners who are responsible for strategy, as well as project people, finance folks. It's the one place where we all come together, get the right people to sit around the table to help us understand the current condition, what it needs to be, and make sure we have the right projects in place to mitigate that risk. So at the end of the day, we have a pretty good scorecard, red, yellow, green, on all of our infrastructure systems and our buildings based on the experts, not just engineers, but the people who touch the assets every day, the people who live in the space, and the people who are responsible for the finance side of it as well as the project side. So really, it's truly getting all the right people around the table who know the assets better than most of us in the management team, right?
And see, and I'm liking that, because that is not something that a lot of people do.
No, and it's something that we've gotten better at. Weren't always great in the past, but now I think the level of success is when you get I was telling in the presentation earlier today, the old salty guy came in and who's been very vocal, right? And at the end of the day, he says, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And he closes the door and he essentially says, "Hey, this is the coolest thing. I've been around for 35 years, and what you're doing here is the coolest thing I've ever seen. But don't tell anybody I told you that," as he walked outside. So at the end of the day, we're really starting to engage the people who touch these assets every day. And I think we heard it earlier today from, I think, one of the speakers said that people really get involved in the things that or really support the stuff that they're involved with. And I would tell you this process involves all the right people in the whole team. So I think that's why we're getting support behind it.
And you set up a room with TV screens all the way around, and you put up all of the information pertaining to a project on those screens, which is a bit of an investment in its own right, but not necessary.
I would tell you, so yeah, we did really cool. We've got a number of, I think, 7 80-inch touchscreens, which really helped facilitate it. But I would tell you, we did it with paper first. So yeah, you can do that. You can spend a significant amount of money, go really high tech, or you can do it with paper copies and engage in a little more administrative work with the paper. But we did it with paper first. So I would tell you, you don't need to make a significant investment. The important thing is to get all the right people around the table, make sure you're looking at the current condition, the asset, the maintenance strategy, as well as what are we doing in the future to make sure we're maintaining that system or asset at an acceptable level.
But a lot of fun to have a whole bunch of touch screens up there.
It is a lot of fun, but I would tell you, you got to figure out how to. I know I get dangerous. I start touching stuff and I can't figure out how to get back. But really good tool, and I think it's really enjoyable for the teams to have access to that kind of information. They take notes, they make adjustments live. So the data's live. They've got our CMMS system up. We've got AutoCAD prints. Everything's live and available to pull up instantly when somebody has a question. That's what I think. People see their comments being recorded live. They see us pulling up data live, so it's not a manager took a note or somebody took a note. They see it added to a log live, and the action item list, they see it updated live. So they know actions being taken on what they're sharing, which I think is really important.
Oh yeah, and now what I'm taking out of this whole thing is a massive corporation dealing with massive pieces of property that is involving everyone in the decision making so that you make the best possible decision.
Exactly, because I was telling people today, I may have said it earlier, nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Man, I want to make a bad decision today." We make decisions based on the information in front of us. What we're trying to do with this process, have the right information in front of the right people so they can make those better decisions.
Rod, appreciate it. Thank you.
You betcha. Thank you.
All right.